Do you think America is going deeper and deeper into becoming a police state?
Yeah, I think we're moving in that direction because there's not much we can do without permission. The absence of a police state is that people are free, and if you don't commit crimes, you can do what you want. But today, you can't open up a business, you can't develop land, you can hardly do anything. You can't go to the bank, you can't go to the doctor without the government knowing what you're doing. This is something that people eventually, I hope, will get sick and tired of and say, you know, enough is enough. I'm saying we should take our marching orders from our Constitution. We should not go to war. We should not go to war without a declaration. We should not go to war when it's an aggressive war. This is an aggressive invasion. We've committed the invasion of this war.
How much longer should the United States stay in Iraq?
The sooner we come home, the better. If they declare there's no progress in September, we should come home. It was a mistake to go, so it's a mistake to stay.
What are we going to do to make sure they have a government in place before we do pull our troops out and they're able to help themselves? Otherwise, we're just putting them in a position to accept another terrorist leader.
We've had 4 years to do this, and it hasn't worked. The biggest incentive for them to take it upon themselves the responsibility is just for us to leave. We don't need to lose 100 men and women every month. If you want it done, you want them to take over, you've got to give them an incentive. So I think we should immediately stop patrolling the streets. That's a policeman's job.
When we make a mistake, it is the obligation of the people through their representatives to correct the mistake, not to continue the mistake. Tells them we've dug a hole for our party. We're losing elections and we're going down next year if we don't change it. And it has all to do with foreign policy, and we have to wake up to this fact.
So what John is saying is just totally distorted. He doesn't even understand the difference between non-intervention and isolationism. Why do I get the most money from active duty officers, military personnel? I'd like to get rid of the IRS. I want to get rid of the income tax. I want to repeal the 16th Amendment. The system has worked unconstitutionally because everybody who challenges a law is considered guilty.
Pretty soon, we wouldn't be able to pay for that building you're standing in. We wouldn't be able to pay for pretty much anything.
Well, what did they do before 1913? How did you think they built this building? You think they built it with the income tax? How can it ever be morally justifiable to deliberately depreciate the value of our currency? And that is what we do constantly. There's a dollar crisis out there, and people's money is being stolen. People who have saved, they're being robbed. Somebody's losing their wealth because of a weaker dollar, and it's going to lead to higher interest rates and a weaker economy. Our greatest export today are paper dollars. We create money out of thin air, and they still accept it as if it was backed by gold.
The Federal Reserve has taken control of the gold as collateral for the dollars they print. So the Federal Reserve is actually an illegal entity functioning within government.
It's illegal. They're not audited. If they think it's the law and they have all the guns,
The Department of Homeland Security is the biggest bureaucracy we ever had. And besides, what we can do is we can have a stronger national defense by changing our foreign policy. Our foreign policy is costing us $1 trillion, and we can spend most of that or a lot of that money home if we would bring our troops home.
we don't need illegal immigration. We don't need to reward people who get in front of the line. We wouldn't have so many there if they didn't know they were going to get amnesty. You promise them amnesty, promise them there was no sweat, you can get medical care and free education, automatic citizenship, food stamps, and Social Security, you're going to get more of it. There was a time when we had just workers coming back and forth. That was when they didn't expect to get easy amnesty.
He yielded the
government and sacrifice our liberties, and just think of what has happened. Within weeks, they came up with a bill that had been floating around for a long time. It was called the Patriot Act, an act that ought to be quickly repealed.
I would work very hard to protect the privacy of American citizens, being very, very cautious about warrantless searches, and I would guarantee that I would never abuse habeas corpus. I am absolutely opposed to a national ID card. This is a total contradiction of what a free society is all about. The purpose of government is to protect the secrecy and the privacy of all individuals, not the secrecy of government.
So often they tell us this is so necessary for law enforcement, but they've been doing this for years.
This has to change. We don't have to have more courts and more prisons. We need to repeal the whole war on drugs. It isn't working. It's a wasted money. Prohibition didn't work. Prohibition on drugs doesn't work.
First federal law against marijuana was 1938, and they did it through high taxation because they knew they didn't have authority to say that you're not allowed to smoke marijuana.
I believe in limited government. I believe in individual liberty, and there were some Republicans at one time that actually believed that.
Their prescription seems to be small government, but then they get in office and they always blow the government up. Have they lost credibility for all the things that they say? For instance, Ron Paul seems like the most conservative candidate, and the other candidates are laughing him up.
A humble foreign policy, no nation building, don't police the world. That is a conservative, it's a Republican, it's a pro-American, it follows the founding fathers, and besides, it follows the Constitution.
We just need to take care of ourselves and get the government out of our lives and off our back and out of our wallets. The important part about freedom is that when people are free, they become more creative and they become more energized in what they can do, and they have more opportunities. And it is in a free society that we then can strive for what I consider very important, and that is striving for excellence and striving for virtue.
If the goal of government is to be the policeman of the world, you lose liberty. And if the goal is to promote liberty, you can unify all segments. The freedom message brings us together. It doesn't divide us.
This country is in a revolution. They're sick and tired of what they're getting, and I happen to be lucky enough to be part of it.